Hey guys, what's shaking? So we're going to call this a My PD Peeps podcast because quite frankly, it's going to be on the longer side. But the good news is the special guest is you. I will caution you that there will be some religious references in this podcast. So if it's not your cup of tea, talking about religion, I completely understand if you don't want to watch it. I get it. That's what I wanted to warn you. But listen, gratitude, mindfulness, stoic thinking, and most of all, faith have been a huge part of why I am where I am today. And I think it's a huge part of the answer to a lot of the questions that people keep asking me. That's kind of why I'm doing this. I've been having an ongoing dialogue with about 4 or 5 different people, dealing with a lot of things, panic attacks, self-worth, depression, not wanting to go out because of symptoms. And I've been there. I know what that's all like. So I thought this might help them. And quite frankly, I figured I'd put it out there because maybe it'll help you. Listen, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a preacher. Anybody who follows my page will clearly see that. But the one thing I've always promised you guys is to preach the truth and what has helped me to get to this point in my life, and anything that's helped with this symptoms of Parkinson's, as you have for me. So I hope this helps. So listen, I want you to believe what I'm telling you. I'm going to give you visual proof of multiple signs that happened to me last week. So listen, my first run with Parkinson's, and I know you've heard me say this before, was when my youngest was born. I went to a sports autograph show, and Muhammad Ali picked him up and was shaking, and I didn't know what the hell it was. And he kissed him on the forehead. Million years later, when I was diagnosed, the first thing that my kid did, the same son, was get a tattoo of Muhammad Ali on his leg. And listen, you don't know how kids are going to react to news like that. And I think it was just his way of saying to me, without saying, Dad, it's going to be okay. We got this, and that meant the world to me. 5 years later, when I know I got the opportunity to go to DC for the policy forum last week, I went to church 2 nights before I left. I didn't want to share that, and you'll see I didn't put anything on social media because that's kind of personal to me. But I will show you one part of it where I clearly said through my crying that I believe I'm part, just like everybody else, I believe I'm part of the flame that helps keeps God's fire lit. Watch it. That this disease is not going to take what's in you from me. Jesus. Thank you. My job is to help keep the light on that God shines down on everybody. And I thank you all.
Thank you. To just be a light in a dark place, Lord. DC is very interesting right now, Lord God, but we are sending your fire, Lord. We are sending your representative right now, Lord God. Tim's going to go down there, and he's just going to bring that fire and bring that presence of the Lord.
Now, I keep going. I want you to keep these 2 things in mind, because, of course, I was nervous to go to DC. But the first thing I saw in DC at the breakfast was Lonnie, the wife of Muhammad Ali. She talked to me. She calmed me down. She told me to speak from the heart, not from the piece of paper that I wrote. She watched my speech and gave me a ton of courage. And here's the kicker. The speech went over so well and it was received so well that I got invited up to Senator Booker's office. And he signed a piece of paper for me with a note. And I'll show you in editing. And the note used the word that he thought I was a light worker. Now, remember what I said in church about being a light. How could those things not have meaning? How could those things not be signs? Those are just 2 examples of how once I started concentrating on what's important in life, you start to see the good things that God has thrown your way that you've been blind to your whole life. So I told you those two things that happened. Keep them in the back of your head. And I'm going to tell you how I got to that point because that's what's important. And it's not all Parkinson's related, but I do know now that PD had a huge part in my decision making, both good and bad, to get to this place. And maybe it could help you. Listen, I've said for a million years that this is a brain disease. So you could train all you want. You can go to the gym. You could go to PT. You could take your pills. But you have to start with what's affected the most, which is your mind. Once you get that right, you are more prepared to take on Parkinson's or anything else. And that's when my panic attack stopped. That's when the not being afraid to go out in public stopped. That's when you realize that Parkinson's is just part of you. It doesn't define you. It took a long time to get to that point. So let's reverse. About a year and a half. Because we need to tell you how I got to that point. You're not just dealing with a debilitating disease. I was dealing with a lot of other personal stuff in my life. Listen, and I certainly own my part in for what I did to put me there. And life can change in an instance. I saw how poor decision making, because of my own fears and selfishness, would allow a huge door to open for everybody that I thought loved me to just treat me another way, and completely just forget about anything I've done and everything that they're currently hearing. Now listen, I believe in being remorseful. I believe in owning your own mistakes, but nobody deserves to be crucified forever. There's only one person that ever did that, and he did it so that you didn't have to. Never forget that. So I was going through a massive depression. Quite frankly, I didn't want to wake up every day. I didn't care if I did. It's important for you to know that, because it's important for you to know that I'm not just talking the talk. I was where you once were, if not worse. But the first thing you'll hear me say is that I had to take stock of my life. You have to fix your heart and fix your mind. You need to get into a place where you're the best possible person that you could be, that you're happy with the person you see in the mirror before you go to bed every night. Because that's half the battle. Making you realize that you're not not anybody else, making you realize that you're not the person that people are making you out to be. That's kind of the equivalent of Parkinson's, of coming to terms with having it. You have to accept the issue at hand and see what we can do to fix it. You have to come to acceptance. And not let it take control over you, and do the best you can for your body to fight to the next day. So you'll see on my timeline on this page when I first started it, I really just started making funny jokes and trying to make people laugh. And then I started working on being the best version of myself. And I started going to church, multiple times a week, and I got religious tattoos, and I would go to church. But life still wasn't getting any easier. I felt like I was going through the motions. I still kept questioning faith, and I kept saying, God, why is this happening to me? Why are people doing this stuff to me? I'm a good person. I don't deserve this. And I got to the point where I started feeling like a boxer, and it's only human nature to start punching your way out of the corner. But as much as I found faith, he still just wasn't answering my prayers, So I kept doing more fighting and trying to be a better person, trying to do my best to defend myself. But I noticed that what was happening was, by trying to defend myself, I was hurting people that didn't need to get hurt. And I didn't see that. I honestly didn't. And that's when I hit rock bottom. And I'm here telling you, I did everything right. I went to church, I was posting videos, I was helping people, I was trying to be a great person, and no one is believing the good in me and sees it. I was done. I was done fighting. And I've never told anybody this before. But I'll tell you the reason I got baptized. I wanted to be right with my God and my faith, because I wasn't sure how many days I knew I had left to fight. That's where I was. Kind of like PD. Some days you just look in the mirror and you're like, I can't do this anymore. But you know what? Even though I went through that ceremony, I still left church that day like, all right, it's good that you did that, but I wasn't looking forward as far as fighting. But that's when all these beautiful things started happening to me. That's when my mind and my heart were open up to all these signs that I was praying for. I started praying for other people's healing, not my own. I was praying for them because I didn't know how many more times I would have a chance to pray for them. And you know what those signs were? It was God's way of saying to me, now you get it, man. Now you get it. You could say you're going to church, you can get a beautiful tattoo, but start practicing it. You could say you're helping people with PD, but all you're really doing is posting funny videos. It was kind of like God's way of saying, man, you're just going through the motions. It's like lipstick on a pig. You're working on the cosmetics, the exterior, but not you got to start working on the bones. That's where the structure is. And I was afraid to fight those battles. Listen, if you knew what you were signing up for, what you had to sign up for to come out the other side, you probably wouldn't sign up for it. But I started to realize that fear is just faith that's misplaced. It's believing that the problems you have and what it takes to solve them are greater than your trust in God, who's been there all along by your side, waiting to help you. Listen, I definitely think God had to break me down to the point where I was going through my own personal hell for me to let him in, for me to say, I can't do it alone. Help me. I think that's why people find God right before they die or when they're in jail, because they're at that point where they feel like they have nobody left to help them. And a lot of times with PD, that's how we feel. So I started to build off that a little bit. I started to break down the walls between me and faith. I realized that once I started doing the actual work and not just praying, I started praying for others and not what I needed, that good things started coming my ways. It opened up the door to this beautiful Parkinson's family letting me in and stumbling upon gratitude and stoic thinking and mindfulness to calm my mind. The old me would have never searched those things out, ever. So this is where it comes to the point where I feel it could help with panic attacks or fear of going out or being judged. All these things taught me, and I started to realize that the only thing, and you've heard me say this before, the only thing that you could truly try to control in life is your mind. You're never in control of anything else. You will never be able to control what life throws at you, what diseases it throws at you, what people think of you, the lies they tell. All you could be is the best version, and try to be the best version of yourself, and try to process that in your mind. How you process it means everything. It'll keep you sane. That's what stops the panic attacks. That's what stops you from giving a shit what people think when you go out. So I started calling it, I stopped trying and I started trusting. Because the truth is, I tried everything I knew how and it didn't work. And once I finally put my life in God's hands and I trusted Him, my life changed that day, like that. Start worrying about your inner peace. It's the most valuable thing you'll ever have. It took Parkinson's for me to realize that, and it shouldn't have. It took Parkinson's for me to realize that money is not going to make you happy. I know it's a necessary evil and we need it to live, but at the end of the day, money will never buy happiness. Start to protect your inner peace. It is the most valuable commodity that you'll ever have. Human nature is to want to fight back when people are hurting you, but there's great strength in just taking a moment, and I call it the power of the pause. And I realized that not only do you need to take a minute before you respond, but a lot of the times you don't even have to, your response isn't even warranted. You don't owe anybody explanations. The way that people talk about you or to you or the way they act towards you, that's more of a statement about them. And again, it's more of a statement about, you don't wish any ill upon them. They're lost. And listen, I pray for those people because I was there. I was lost. There's strength in silence. So I know it's human to, again, want to fight back, just like with PD. But sometimes you just have to let faith fight your battles for you. I know when the time is right, God will tell my truth to those people who deserted me. I know He will. And coming from Him, maybe they'll believe it. Maybe they won't. Maybe they have more healing to do. Maybe I have more healing to do. I don't know. But everything happens on God's time. So listen, I can certainly relate to this. And I relate to it in a Parkinson's way. Because sometimes you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, damn, I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing what the doctor says. I'm not feeling better. And trust me, this was me almost every single morning. But I realized as long as I'm doing all I can, I'm trying my best to save my inner peace and fight with the right frame of mind. The rest is in God's hands, or faith, whatever you believe in, your faith's hands. Listen, nobody, and I mean nobody, has got the right to steal your inner peace. Nothing is that valuable. Nobody's approval of you is more valuable than it stealing your inner peace. If people don't value you, I see how God could remove them right from your life, and it's for your own benefit. Nobody has the right to affect your inner peace unless you give them permission to do so, and that includes Parkinson's. So, and why would you do that? Who would sign up for that? And listen, from a Parkinson's standpoint, I'm still where I was the day I got diagnosed. I mean, the pills help, but I'm still messing with pills. I'm messing with PT. I'm messing with diets. I'm messing with mindfulness. I'm in the same spot, but the biggest difference is Parkinson's broke me so much to the point where I had to let in the biggest ally that was there all along. I no longer wonder if I care about waking up tomorrow. I know if I wake up, it was a gift, because I know with my head on right and with Him next to me, I can do anything. It's not my God-given right to wake up. That means I still have a lot more to do on this earth, and He thinks that I have a lot more to do on this earth. What I will tell you is, if you're on the fence about religion and faith, and you're just kind of starting your spiritual journey, never been a big Bible guy, just start with the book of Proverbs, because that will give you the most solid foundation that you will need to move forward, and it tells you everything you need to live in harmony. 4 pillars: endurance, patience, self-control, and surrender. And if you look at that, those are the 4 pillars of everything we just spoke about, the whole podcast. First, I had to endure everybody's slings and arrows and what life threw my way. Granted, I deserved it, or at least people thought I deserved it, and I get that. I had to be patient. I had to start believing that eventually things would get better. And I had to start learning things, and I had to start learning that healing and blessings would come on His time, not mine. The biggest thing I had to realize was self-control, practicing self-control, and realize that even though I thought I was right in my fight, I was hurting others. And I see now how self-control and not letting yourself get in the mud with others has bettered my situation. I'm in a lot better place. Letting God in was always a better way to deal with my problems. I just didn't know it at the time, but it's what helped me most of all. And once I finally surrendered and I said, I can't take it anymore, you know what was there waiting for me? Faith. It was there all along. I just let it in. It was the only thing that could have helped me in that moment. It's the first thing I look to every single day to thank God for. And it's never let me down since. So listen, I know panic attacks happen. I know it gets hard with our own insecurities. I still have them. How people won't going to look at us and say, Jesus, what do they have? I'm here to tell you that sometimes you just got to know that doing your best is enough. You're a great person. Be the best person you could be. As far as keep fighting your PD, doing what you're supposed to do, taking your meds, working your off times. But sometimes you just have to leave it to a higher power and believe. And listen, even though faith has taught me that I have more strength now than I've ever had in my life, I know faith will always have more strength than me or anybody who I could ever seek out to help me. So all I can tell you is like, get your mind right. Be the best version of you. Stop giving in to what you think society is looking for, and just embrace the new normal, the new you, the new beautiful you. Because what I will tell you is, I walked through many fires and many sleepless nights to get to the new me, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else in the world. I'm always here for you guys. I love you. Hope this helps.